Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our service this beautiful day. Happy spring equinox. My name is Cynthia Young. I am the music director at the Unitarian Universalist Church in Reston. Welcome to all our UUCR members, friends, and guests. And if you are visiting us this morning for the first time, please know that you also are so welcome here. Our minister, the Reverend Dr. Deborah Hafner, is on leave, as is our RE director, Linda Weaver, and our accompanist, Jesse Leon. I am so happy to be leading service today, along with a wonderful worship team. Kara Fortner, the chair of our worship committee, is here with us. Beth DiPasquale, our talented office director, is running the technical side of worship. And volunteer Maggie Mack is your usher in the chat. We also have two very special guests who I would like to introduce you to, Jim and Ashley Cash. Hello, Jim and Ashley. Welcome to UUCR. Also known as the musical duo Woven Green, Jim and Ashley are here to offer their music and messages to us at this time of the turning from winter to spring. Exactly 1 year ago, we had planned for Woven Green to be with us in our sanctuary to honor the spring equinox of 2020. Of course, that did not happen. We are so thrilled that after 1 year, we have finally been able to make their visit a reality. Welcome, Jim and Ashley. But first, we have an update for you on stewardship. This is Stewardship Month, the time in our church year when you are asked to make your annual pledge to UUCR. A little later on, we will be hearing from a testimonial from two of our members about why they pledge. But right now, we'd like to give you a quick update. So far, we have raised 69% of our goal, which is great, but we still have to hear from over half of our members and friends. Ann Thomas, our stewardship chair, reminds you to please make your pledge today if you have not done so already. And know that during the transition year ahead, your pledge means, in the theme of this year's campaign, now more than ever. As we move into our time of worship, let us first take one moment to light a candle, to mourn the tragic violence perpetrated in the Atlanta area last Tuesday, violence that took 8 lives. I light this candle for all 8 of the victims and those who love and grieve them, as we ally ourselves with our Asian American neighbors against all hate and violence. Now let us enter into our time of worship. Let's take a deep, centering breath together. And let us enter into a spirit of worship as we listen to The Gardener, performed by Woven Green.
Digs into the earth a little suffered from a certain poverty. They've lost their way, they have no hope, nothing to believe. Work so hard every day, a voice calls from the crowd. What strength we have, we spend it on every working hour. There's another way, the gardener says, there is a higher law. It turns the world without our will. When the fruit is ripe, it falls. La la la. Life simpler than we make it. The world might be a better place if we'd learn not to forsake it. La la la.
Oh, wow. It is so wonderful to hear that beautiful, gorgeous live music. Thank you so much, Jim and Ashley. Our opening words are read by Ashley Kaisamore, a member of our UUCR group, Fox and Fungi, a pagan group open to all interested in an earth-centered spiritual path. I would like to thank Fox and Fungi and Deb Stover, who helped make this service possible. Now let's listen to Ashley read our opening words.
Springtime Call to Worship by Susan Davis and Archer. The earth is warming. The bird song increases. The sweeter breezes brush our cheeks, and the earth holds hope in its seeds and buds. Come, let us gather this morning with joyful noise, with warm hearts and with hopeful spirits, for we are all one with renewal of earth and blessedly held in the love of one another.
And next we'll be singing hymn number 396, I Know This Rose Will Open, and the lyrics will be in the chat box so you can sing along. We'll be repeating it about 3 times.
I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. I know this rose will open. I know my fear will
Good morning. I'm Kara Fortner, Worship Committee. Most of you know me. I'm glad to be here with you all this morning. And I'm so glad we have Woven Green with us. We are so blessed to have you with us this morning to welcome in spring. It's now the time in our service to light our chalice. You may wish to light a candle in your home as I read the chalice lighting words and as we enjoy the photo of our own UU Reston chalice. Like the First Hint of Green by Jennifer McLaughlin. As the first hint of green begins to peek through the barren ground, as that little sprig grows into a healthy stem, and that stem grows into a stalk that forms a bud, as that bud slowly opens to form a yellow daffodil, let us be like that first hint of green, renewed by the warmth of the sun's rays, ready to emerge with new energy. We light this chalice to bring a glimmer of that warmth into our space.
In our church, we intentionally recommit to each other every Sunday by singing our covenant together. Love is the spirit of this church. We will sing along with our beautiful congregation and choir video. The words will be in your chat box. If you are visiting us this morning for the first time, please accept this song as our blessing to you. As we mentioned earlier, this is Stewardship Month, and each week we have been sharing from members of our community about why they donate to UUCR. Chris Topoleski, who's been a member since 2018, and his 16-year-old daughter, Sydney, our newest member, recorded this discussion about what UUCR and stewardship means to them. Let's listen to Chris and Sydney.
Hi, I'm Chris Topoleski. I'm a member of UUCR, and I've been so since October of 2018. And I'm here with...
I'm Cynthia Young. I'm Chris's daughter. I'm 16 years old, and I'm about to become a member of the church. So, Dad, what is stewardship to you?
So, for me, stewardship takes a couple of different forms. Number one, yes, there is a financial component to it. I am pledging and giving money throughout the year this year. But also, it's not just about sending money into the church. It's about giving your time. It's about giving, yourself back to the community.
Mm-hmm.
For example, I sit on a couple of different committees. You and I have done some other things at the church as well. And will I be donating more this year than I did last year financially? Yes, I will. But I think what's really important is that I be an active member of our community and foster our growth. If you were to ask me kind of what the one big event that really got me, that it really sticks in my mind of a UUCR event, it would be Rest in Pride of 2019. So from 2018 to 2019, it grew exponentially. I was thrilled to see kind of the takeover of Lake Ann Plaza. 3 different congregations there, vendors, and all of that. So that for me is really important. And I get a lot spiritually out of my church. So I want to give back.
Right.
Sydney, what would it mean to you to be stewardship?
Well, as a youth, I think the most valuable thing I can give is my time. And something that I've done that I've really enjoyed was helping out in our garden, specifically weeding and making sure that only the plants that were supposed to be there are there. And I feel like it's really nice to be able to help beautify your space that you worship in. And it was really nice to meet some of the older church members and get some wisdom and just some nice conversations, and feel like I'm really part of the community.
So what do you see this coming year for you and your involvement in the church as becoming a member?
Well, I think I'm really going to try to involve myself even more with the garden, kind of listen in a little bit more to your various committees, and really just trying to give what I can to this community.
Cindy, it sounds great. I'm excited for us. It's a new chapter for you, and looking forward to the next year and of good stewardship.
Yep.
Bye.
Thank you, Chris and Sydney, for your testimonial. We are now at the part of our service where we invite you to light a virtual or real candle in your home for a joy or concern in your heart, a time to share your joy and cares for yourselves, your family, your community, our world. We invite you to share your joy or concern in the chat box. Please make sure you are writing to all attendees, and remember that anything you write is public. Take the time to read what appears in the chat box, and when you are done, we invite you into your own time of meditation, reflection, and prayer as we listen to Woven Green playing their composition, Spring Reflections. Let the music and each other's joys and concerns wash over you. As we have this time here together, we are grateful for each other's presence virtually, able to share the joys and the freedom that our vaccinations are bringing us, of the ability to reconnect, to move around, and to visit places and people, the joy that brings, the health of those we love, and the garden and the spring and everything that new life and rebirth reminds us of. There is a heaviness in our hearts, though, for the 8 victims of the mass shooting in Atlanta. The women, the Asian women who were targeted, the loss of life, so needless. But these joys that surround us are still here, and there is always hope and renewal, that we can do the things that need to be done to heal and to grow. May we recognize that in each other and be thoughtful of our words and our actions. In the name of all that is good and holy, so may it be. Amen.
I dreamed I saw the world from high above, aboard a ship of stars on a cosmic sea of love. No pain, no suffering in this heavenly space. A sense of calm, glory, and grace. In the state of bliss, it's simply hard to believe. Our world so torn and people down on their knees, begging for mercy, praying for peace. A distant hope that all the fighting may cease. So lift it up, the world to love. The only way we're gonna save this ship from sinking is to lift it up, all of us, only together shining everlasting faith in love, in love. I hear the sound of every heartbeat as one, through the fields of time and every dream that is spun. This inspiration lifts the veil within a song, raises the sails. So lift it up, the world to love. The only way we're gonna save the ship from sinking is to lift it up, all of us, only together shining everlasting faith in love. Lift it up, the world to love. The only way we're gonna save the ship from sinking is to lift it up, all of us, only together shining everlasting faith in love, in love. Well, I believe that love will prevail, and I believe to finally awake in a song. I dreamed I saw the world waking up.
Lift it up. It is so rejuvenating and uplifting to hear that beautiful music and the voices of Jim and Ashley together. Those beautiful harmonies, unique instruments, and powerful lyrics. We are going to invite Jim now to share some words with us.
The harbingers of spring come dressed in robes of yellow, violet, pink, and blue. Their brilliance dazzles our senses and invites us into a feeling of peace and softness. With an exalted breath, we marvel at the emergence of beauty, the seeding of new life. Hope springs eternal. Nature holds the magic wand of illumination. Her sentient presence alive in all things, she summons her harbingers who come cloaked in many forms to create the catalyst and the chrysalis for transformation. The turning of the tide set into motion, sometimes gentle like a cool summer breeze, and sometimes sudden with a tidal wave-like force racing to the yonder shore. Often it seems, though, that change can move at an imperceptible crawl. We notice this especially in the bleak stillness of winter, till one day we wake up on a spring morning and all the world reborn, revitalized, and reawakened, as if it just happened overnight. It's hard to see that even in the dead of winter, in the frozen tundra, there is a turning and churning of movement happening, preparing for new fertile ground. There is always change and movement and stillness. And nature can also be swift and unpredictable. She can strike down like a bolt of lightning without any warning. Our lives are a mirror of this, where once we were walking along sure-footed on seemingly solid ground, a tsunami hits, and we're suddenly thrown into a world of uncertainty. Over the last year, we've been hit not with just one tsunami, but we've been hit with several. A global pandemic, the pervasion of systemic racism that reached a fever point last summer, a political movement and the idealization of that movement, which would lead to an insurrection right here in our nation's capital. We have had wave upon wave of change, and we've had to navigate our way through a profound and intense time of uncertainty and disquietude. The change is inevitable. We're challenged by our conditioning to resist it. We take refuge in familiar structures, and we tend to avert change, especially when it means having to authentically examine our own lives, our belief systems, our values, the communities that we belong ourselves to, and how we wish to show up on a day-to-day basis. We cling to the shorelines of familiarity until change is absolute and the floodwaters pull us away from the shallow end into the depths of the great unknown. The tsunamis that hit in any myriad of form of loss, they are the life shakers. Suddenly, we're reminded how fleeting our lives are and how fragile life is. We're forced to slow down, to turn inwards and process all that's been shaken up. And yet, somewhere in that space between vulnerability and acceptance, to quote Sufi poet Rumi, can become the place where the light enters. Our courage to be vulnerable, our courage to wade through those storms of grief, sorrow, and rage can illuminate much, areas in our life that we wish to change. It can also open the gateway to being able to retrieve those parts of ourselves that perhaps were once anesthetized, numb, exiled in the shadows of banality, where we were attached to old routines, old identities, old structures. And so then these life shakers, they become the catalyst that propel us into living a more authentic life that's guided by spirits. And as we cross that threshold into a new world, into a new being, a new way of being, we can look beyond what befalls and then ask, what is becoming? What is emerging? In this time of pause and reflection, of deep emotional processing, where conditions have been such that we've had to experience long periods of isolation, it has also allowed us time and an opportunity to reclaim and cultivate a relationship with that part of ourselves which begs to be reborn and integrated with purpose and passion, imagination and vision, and a new sense of service and inspired action to want to be a force of good in this world. When irrevocable change strikes like lightning and we're challenged with deep loss and heartbreak, we may come to discover a strength of spirit emerge. We may come to the wizened realization that what we once experienced as low or rock bottom taught us many more lessons than the mountaintop ever could. That there in the rubble, in the ashes, in the wasteland, in the brokenness of our lives, mirrored in our social and political systems, that the greatest challenges of our time also hold the greatest opportunities for true transformation, liberation, and unity, breaking us open to the best part of ourselves, the resilience of the human spirits, and our capacity and our potential to radically change the betterment of our lives through compassion, through empathy, through hope, through vision, inspiration, and adaptation. In the cessation of what we perceived as normal, in these shattered shards of time, in the tears of our sorrow, arise the echoes and the cries of a collective calling, saying, we can get through this. And not only can we get through this, we can do better. So let's take a moment to look at the ways that we've seen people and communities all across the world answer to this call, rise up and rally together. On the wings of altruism, in the spirit of humanitarian efforts, we saw a 7.5% rise in charitable giving from years past. We've seen an outpouring of volunteer efforts from every corner of the globe to distribute food to those most in need. We saw major companies halt their main product lines to instead put their focus on making medical devices and ventilators to help with the pandemic. We also saw neighbors and communities offering food as well, and then putting their sewing skills to work to make masks for the essential workers. We acknowledged our often unsung heroes, our doctors and nurses and first responders who took to the front lines every day to help with the pandemic. And we saw neighbors and communities also finding ways to uplift the spirits. In my own neighborhood, a group of kids painted rocks with messages of hope and gratitude all across the town, reminding us to be grateful for our doctors and nurses and our scientists, giving us hope. Another family, a mother and her daughters, made a nature trail complete with educational signs in the local habitat, and also the importance of taking care of our planet. You could just feel the sense of inspiration, that spark, a sense of urgency of families and kids wanting to get involved. There was a new sense of community beginning to take hold, a desire to want to be a part of a greater collective initiative. Here in my hometown of Sterling, Virginia, in the wake of George Floyd's death, 2 high school girls organized a rally to help stop police brutality and systemic racism. And they successfully and safely brought out thousands of masked kids of all ages, races, and backgrounds. I remember that moment of being there and feeling this hope and inspiration. And I saw very clearly then the vision of our younger generations taking the torch, who believed that they had a voice, that they mattered, that they could change the outcome, that they could change the world. And that realization began to spread. It wasn't just in my hometown, nor was it the cities and communities all across the nation, but we saw the global effort of 60 other countries break out in support of the Black Lives Matter movement, which had a rippling effect, which ushered in an historic election and historic wins in that election for the LGBTQ community and people and women of color. And we also saw the resilience of the human spirit channeled through a young Black girl named Amanda Gorman, who shared the poem of our age on our nation's capital as she spoke the prophetic words, "The new dawn blooms as we free it. For there is only light, for there is always light, if only we are brave enough to see it, if only we are brave enough to be it." And it's that courage to show up in our individual lives that contributes to the larger presence we need to cross this collective initiation. And so it is a realization that the only way out is through love and through lifting each other up. It is our willingness to see that light that breaks us open to the light that we are. So in closing, I'd like to invite you to take in these words. And you may close your eyes if you wish. Just as nature pushes up the rhizomes from the once harsh winter night, the wasteland becomes the fertile bedrock for new life to emerge. Emergence. Here in this place of the wholly unfamiliar lies a timeless dimension that awaits our recognition of our true nature as pure, radiant, limitless consciousness. See it now with a naked intensity. Hear it now in the space between breaths. A fading lament turned into a collective clarion call that sounds out the glorious truth with a shockwave-like urgency across the globe. Emergence. The inner veil lifted, the outer world reborn. You, revealer of light, you who wake the ancient seat, the atom of this moment, which calls us into being. Emergence. A sea of churning ripples, bursts and rebirths, sounding out its song. In the silken whisper of a spider's web, in the dry grass, bending in the prophetic winds, in the flutter of a hummingbird's wings. Emergence. Emergence.
Thank you, Jim, for those beautiful words. Our closing hymn is number 61, Lo, the Earth Awakes Again. The words will be in your chat box. Please do sing along with me and Jessie. Lo, the earth awakes again, alleluia. Thank you so much to Tracy Hedges for reading our beautiful closing words today. Tracy is a member of Fox and Fungi and also sings in our choir. Tracy will read Season Transitions by Andrew Pakula.
May you know fully and deeply the blessings of each heart seasons, the inward turning of winter, springtime's lush renewal, the effortless steady growth of summer, and autumn's rich harvest. May your passage from season to season be blessed, eased by hands to hold and by the light of love to guide you on.
Bow to the heart that shines like the sun, holds us together in this lighthouse as one. Bow to the heart that shines like the sun, holds us together in this lighthouse as one. The sacred turning in us, the holy golden rose, the sacred turning in us, this mystic light we glow, the sacred turning in us, the holy golden rose, the sacred turning in us, this mystic light we glow. Bow to the heart that shines like the sun, holds us together in this lighthouse as one. Bow to the heart that shines like the sun, holds us together in this lighthouse as one. The sacred turning in us, the holy golden rose, the sacred turning in us, this mystic light we glow, the sacred turning in us, the holy golden rose, the sacred turning in us, this mystic light we glow. Bow to the heart. Bow to the heart.
It's worship service, no clapping, but clapping. Thank you so much for sharing your gifts with us this morning. What beautiful music the two of you make together. Thank you, Jim and Ashley, for being here with us. Our worship service has come to a close, but before we go off into our breaks together in our chat rooms, we ask you to make a contribution to our church. We provide the love and the worship, and we can't do it without your support. So please do remember to put a collection. The collection is in your chat box. Also, a reminder that it is Stewardship Month, and if you have not yet made your pledge, please do so. The pledge and the collection today are different. So if you could do both this morning if you haven't yet pledged. Please also show your love to Woven Green, to Cynthia for putting this together, for your community here, and for this time we have together. And before we put up the clicky thing for the breakout rooms, let me say, my friends, go in peace.